So, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Rebel City podcast. As always, myself and Paul are here. We're really lucky today to have a guest, Paul Quigley, from the Fans Against Criminalization campaign. Obviously, quite a big topic in recent weeks, and obviously we're just looking to get into it here. Obviously, before we started, I'd said to you that I feel like a lot of your public information can get quite truncated or easily sort of taken out of context. So we're just going to let you punch yourself out here today and get as much out there as possible. One of the things for me, as much as I followed the campaign, was that a lot of people don't really get what it's about and what's been at stake throughout the entire process. So I want to try and contextualise something just by kind of starting out where the campaign began and kind of try and work through to where we are here, all right?
Okay.
So I think in the sort of wider sort of public consciousness, the sort of quote-unquote sort of shame game was where this kind of started for a lot of people. What was your experience out in the beginning?
Well, that is where it started, because when Celtic played Rangers in that game, there had obviously been a kind of clash of the players during the game, and then at the end of the game there was the incident between Ali McCoy's then assistant manager of Rangers and Neil Lennon, who was the manager of Celtic at the time and now he is again. Now, that is what had caused the kind of media furore that got about an emergency summit chaired by Alex Salmond that involved football clubs, different religious denominations, and the Scottish Government and the police. And it was out of that formed the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. But I still think that a lot of went on in terms of that game gets kind of lost, because people forget that during that season, Celtic and Rangers played each other 7 times. 7 times over the course of 9 months of a football season, which is a lot. So I felt as a fan who went to every one of those games that you were almost, it was almost too much. And that a lot of the atmosphere and the animosity between fans was almost waiting because it was getting boring. But familiarity was breeding contempt between the players. That was absolutely the case. So when you had that Scottish Cup replay, and it was, it was at night time. So I think, passions, certainly for the players, were boiling over. Rangers had 3 players sent off. Celtic won with, a goal that also involved a Rangers player being knocked unconscious. And things just spilled over on the pitch. But in terms of the fans, there was nothing of note that happened. There were more Rangers players given a yellow card that night than there were Celtic fans arrested. And the majority of arrests were for the heinous crime of smoking in the toilet. So you're not talking about
these weren't like disorder offences?
No, there was no issues of real disorder. There was no reason really for Scotland to look at that game and be bound into some kind of moral panic. And the media played a massive role in doing that. And obviously, I think that was in maybe February. I'd maybe need to check March 2011. But you're also getting into, election season. And the bottom line is that the Scottish Government, I think at that point, the SNP made a political calculation. And that calculation was that there were votes to be had and grabbing headlines by coming down hard on football supporters, and that football fans wouldn't have the means to properly fight back. And I think that came back to bite them in the backside a wee bit.
I think in terms of what you were saying, that the committee chaired by Salmon, it felt to me at times like his influence in this process was pretty palpable. I mean, he seemed to go sort of full head first into it and really wouldn't appear to hear sort of any sort of dissenting voice on it.
No, dissent certainly wasn't allowed, that's for sure. But I mean, they tried to initially bring it through as emergency legislation. They tried to make sure that it didn't go through the standard checks and balances and go through the kind of committees in the normal way that a regular bill would, all for young guys shouting and swearing at each other at a football match, that democratic process is to be suspended. And then following an absolutely appalling showing from one of these ministers, in the Justice in the Scottish Parliament. What then happened was they decided that they had to shelve it over the course of the summer, and Alex Salmond said that what he wanted to do was build consensus around it. Yet he spectacularly failed to do that, and he failed to do that because he failed to engage. What he tried to do is he tried to bounce the other opposition parties just through fear of being seen as being somehow pro-sectarian. It's nonsense, right? But he tried to go hard on that rhetoric so that one of those parties would say, who in their right mind wants to be on the side of,
Yeah.
of sectarianism? Nobody, right?
Yeah.
Nobody around this table.
Bipartisanship at
And
the end of a
nobody
gun.
that I've met over the course of this campaign, right? So when Parliament reconvened after the summer and the SNP had their overall majority, what they wanted to do is just force that through. And that's what they've done. It was, by the time it went to vote, it was the first piece of legislation in history, as far as I'm aware, that was forced through the Scottish Parliament without any cross-party support.
It's unsurprising, to be honest with you. I mean, we've obviously covered a bit about the press reaction, and obviously throughout this entire process, what the press have had to say about the criminalisation and the sort of demonisation of fans has been pretty pivotal. But like in that initial sort of period, what was the public reaction to the Offensive Behaviour Acts? I know obviously guys like yourselves and yourselves felt like it was a pretty big sort of overreach and an infringement on people's sort of civil liberties.
Well, I mean, I think people were alarmed immediately with the wording of it. I mean, that was certainly what grabbed us. When we kind of got a hold of it, and at the time it was the 5 different Celtic fan organisations who had decided to meet to discuss it. And there were 2 particular issues that ran as a continuing theme all throughout the campaign. Those issues were that laws should be universal.
Yep.
They should apply to everyone. You can't pick one demonised sector in society and say this law is only going to apply to them. We had an immediate issue with that. And the second issue was with the notion of outlawing something as subjective as offensiveness.
Yeah.
Now, what I find offensive, you might not, and vice versa. That's the nature of it. But when you start to criminalise something like that, you create a kind of broadening and blurring of what is legally acceptable. And then what happens is, and as we predicted, eventually sadly came true, is that people were being arrested for the most menial and minor of offences. And that was what we could see the writing on the wall with that. So we decided at that point that we had to act and try and organise to prevent it coming to fruition.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of some of the, obviously the offences that, people, quote unquote offences that people were arrested for, a lot of that kind of sided on, or was as a result of the communication element of the bill. I think it goes without saying that in like the 21st century, we need legislation that accurately sort of protects people in terms of how they communicate. But again, football fans were singled out here. And is something that somebody says on Twitter or Facebook really...
Well, I mean, what I would say is that, when we got a few years into the legislation, the police stopped using the communication aspect of it because it wasn't strong enough to get convictions. If they were genuinely serious about putting together a piece of legislation to deal with, hate crime online, to deal with threats that were being sent to people, then that's fine. There can be a mature and adult discussion about that. But that discussion cannot be had when you fling it in to support an attack on football supporters. And that was where that fell down. And as I say, the statistics bear out that the police stopped using it. The Procurator Fiscal Service stopped using the communications aspect of it because they weren't getting the convictions. So, in reality, those 2 things should never have been put together.
Could you
and that was
had a case if, say, for instance, they came to try and jail you for something that you said on Twitter, but you weren't a football fan?
No. So there's a bit of confusion here, I think. So, in terms of Part 1 of the Offensive Behaviour Football Act, right, that deals with things that happen within the context of a football match, right? So that not only includes, you being at the game and standing with your mates or sitting with your dad and shouting at the referee or singing about whatever, right? It also would include travelling to and from a game.
Okay.
It could also theoretically include travelling with a group of people who were going to the game, even if you
weren't going to the game. Right, so that was going to be the next sort of analogy I was going to use.
It gets very difficult to define in parts, right? But that's the first part, and that deals with, as I say, what basically was made criminal under that was anything that anyone, whether they actually exist or not, might theoretically find offensive. You could be convicted, right? It was as broad as that. Now, in terms of the second aspect of it, the online communications aspect of it, that was Part 5 of it, and that applied to anyone. But because of the way it was worded, as I say, by and large, the Procurator Fiscal Service still used, I think it was the Communications Act of 2003, that they still continue to use. So, as I say, they try to... I don't know if they were just trying to beef up the initial legislation. And I remember at the time as well, it was when Celtic played Rangers in that shame game, what transpired after that was the kind of sustained campaign against Neil Lennon and against the Catholic and Irish diaspora in Scotland. Because what happened was Neil Lennon was sent bombs and bullets in the post. Similar things were sent to people linked to Celtic or the Irish diaspora in Scotland. And there had also been a kind of surge, I think, of online posts about, with like death threats to Neil Lennon or, some horrible pictures that had been photoshopped about him. So I think they probably just seen that as an opportunity to drag that in to further gather support. Because again, they probably made a political calculation that, nobody thinks that people should be, sending people death threats online. But the more nuanced discussion, as you say, should people be going to jail for, a daft tweet? That's a grown-up discussion that has to be had. But rather than having that discussion, what they wanted to do was take a sledgehammer to crack a walnut, and that's what they've done.
So kind of moving on for the kind of basics and the beginnings there, you said that obviously there was sort of 5 primarily sort of Celtic related sort of units that got together to form Fans Against Criminalization. How did that happen? How did you sort of begin your mobilisation?
So we would have already been in touch anyway. There'd been personal relationships there, and the groups would have been in touch about various different issues, but either dealing with Celtic Football Club, or some organisations would at that point have a relatively okay relationship with the police, so they would be meeting to discuss issues around fan safety and whatnot. So there was relationships there and a bit of a structure there that allowed us to come together and identify the issues that would come. Now, there was also remarks made by members of the Scottish Government who had pointed out that one of the reasons they wanted to bring in this piece of legislation was because at the time arrest figures between Celtic and Rangers fans weren't even. They wanted to even them up. And the reasoning being for that was that there was quite a lot of Rangers fans who were being charged and prosecuted under kind of hate crime legislation for singing songs that would be deemed racist or sectarian. But Celtic fans who were singing songs which would be more deemed political and cultural weren't being arrested and weren't being convicted. So they wanted
one MP even called it the evening upload, didn't they? Or words to that effect.
It was Kristen Graham said she was in a discussion with Tom Devine and the Justice Committee, and they were kind of arguing. And she said, it's not even. She kind of get a bit exasperated trying to explain it to a guy who obviously understands the issue a bit better than she does.
So why would they want to?
Why would you even need to?
Why would you even need to even something like that up?
Well, that's a question for them, isn't it? I mean, it's not something I have the answer to, but that was certainly a running theme of what they wanted to do. They wanted to even up arrests because, in my opinion, there are still elements within the Scottish Government and within the SNP who, in the wider Yes movement, who still see sectarianism as two sides of the one coin and don't have a deeper understanding of the roots of anti-Catholic and anti-Irish racism.
I think a lot of people dismiss these types of issues that hover around sort of Glasgow football and religion in similar terms.
I mean, I'm also a part of the new Call It Out organisation. It's set to try and challenge some of that discrimination. But for me, actual discrimination and bigotry and inequality isn't actually about young guys singing at the football. No. It's about structures that are in place and that have been in place since the Irish came here.
This is an issue that's centuries old. You're not going to...
Absolutely, and again, you can have a grown-up, nuanced discussion about what were the seeds of that bigotry. I would certainly argue that it was waiting for us when we got off the boat. And the fact that even today, you can point to the fact that those of Irish Catholic descent in Scotland are more likely to live in poverty, they're more likely to be in jail, they're more likely to suffer mental health, they're more likely to die younger, and they're more likely to be in prison. That is, for me, the real issue, but to tackle that isn't easy. That's difficult. But if you can just change that to, it's all about football and it's all about Glasgow and they're all the same, it's just these Neds who are singing these daft songs, and what we need to do is come down hard on them and fast, and that's what we'll do with it.
It's just political point scoring when it comes to that, because if you actually go to Celtic Park and you look at the people running about you, it's middle class people that are going to the football predominantly nowadays. I mean, it's been sort of the cost of it. Even, I mean, it's a family game. It's if you go back to when I first started going to Celtic, it was less of a family game.
You need to have a level of disposable income.
I think there's certainly attempts to make it more middle class. I do think that a lot of the core supporters that will go home and away and stuff like that are still
working class people.
Are still working
Or
class.
came from a working class background.
In my experience. But there is obviously a bit more of a crossover now, and it's not as black and white as it might have been.
Yeah.
But I still think that a lot of that class prejudice is what undermines a lot of the rhetoric about football supporters. I mean, and the thing is, there's a long historical timeline in this. So you only get back to the 1960s, in the Times, London Times, that is, had an article that deemed, it said football was a slum sport played in slum stadiums in front of slum people, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to the 1980s, and under Thatcher, football fans are very much deemed part of the enemy within, alongside the trade union movement. When we get to the 1990s, and there's this kind of burst of CCTV nation, the guinea pigs for this are football supporters. The first people this is tested out on are football fans, and it's very much about controlling their movement. But now we're getting to a point whereby they're trying to control what football fans say and think.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very dangerous step, not just for football fans and the working class generally, but for everyone else, because it was rolled out before and it can be rolled out again.
Sign of things to come.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just an issue of football fans, want to just sing what they want and behave what they want. And I understand that even people who listen to this will maybe be tempted to write me off and write this campaign off, and, just have it off football fans. The last few weeks have shown that football fans can't behave and he's only to enter the 21st century like everybody else. But the reality is that this is a threat to everyone, because I mean, like, some of the reaction in the last few weeks, in my opinion, has been absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But what you see is that nobody is stopping to put the brakes on it. So, like, you had like a discussion, and it's like ex-football players and sports journalists all trying their hands at social analysis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they'd be equally equipped to go on a
what's
video.
Charlie Nicholas's opinion on sectarianism?
You know what I mean? Like,
who cares?
They'd be as well going on, like, on their TV and their radio and discussing quantum physics for to understand.
There's been people retweeting Brexit opinions of Sam Allardyce.
It's just
as if we should be
it's
paying attention.
nonsense, you know
But the
what I
one
mean?
for me, I mean, and people might say that you're biased. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter about Tommy Robinson. They said to me, well, you're a Celtic fan. Right, okay. So you obviously you hate him. It's like, no, that's not why I hate him. But
people have a preconception.
The one that really got me is the Alex Rays, the Jim Whites, Nacho Novo, who is a Catholic. But these guys coming out and talking about sectarianism as if, we really need to get rid of it. You're getting paid by people that are holding this hash bash. Jim White used to be in Orange Order. How can you sit now on Sky Sports and be talking to people or try to talk to people about the morality of sectarianism?
But, I mean, for me, it's talking about fans and not talking to fans. I've not turned on the radio yet and heard the discussion whereby they've had a sensible fan representative want to say, hold on a minute, like, should anyone act in a criminal way, they should individually be prosecuted.
Absolutely.
That's fine. Nobody, as far as I know, is trying to defend a fan's right to fill a half bottle about fast a player taking a corner kick.
No,
right?
of course
Nobody,
not.
right?
No, of course not.
You know what I mean? But when you have, like, Billy Dodds on the radio and he goes on this rant about how anybody even suspected of doing something like this should be sent straight to jail without any court case, without any lawyer, without any due
based on all
whatsoever.
the trials that you've worked at.
Obviously the extensive legal work that Billy Dodds has no doubt carried out, and nobody on that panel even stops to say, hold on a minute, but what do you mean? What do you mean we should just not have court cases? What do you think? Think we should just all get like a prison ship in the Clyde and we'll just shove them on after the games or what?
That's it.
Nobody says, hold on a minute, let's have a normal discussion about this. And the hysteria has very much taken over. And again, it looks like in much the same way as it did in 2011 when nobody was able to kind of get to grips with the actual issues of the day. It's the same now, and it's some of the same voices. And there's obviously the worry now that the Scottish Government are going to try again and come back and attack fans off the back of this media.
I think thankfully they're in minority at the moment in that respect, and I think the Green Party were quite, who obviously hold the balance of power currently in a certain respect at Holyrood, but they were quite supportive of the repeal, if I remember right, were they not? The
Green Party were great. We met with Ross Greer, Patrick Harvey, even John Finney. We didn't meet with him, but he was an ex-SNP member, and he had actually voted for the Act initially because he was a member of the SNP at the time. He left over the NATO issue, and then he actually was one of the ones that put his hand up and said, this has been a disaster.
Actually got this wrong.
And he voted against it. The Green Party have been great, with great support from all opposition parties, to be fair. but it's important too that they see through
Yeah.
the current attempts, and nobody's, because as I say, it goes back to that political pressure of, you know, you're standing up for bigots and you're standing up for thugs and louts, and that isn't actually the case.
There's a lot
you know,
of stuff getting levelled against you that just is it's just miles off.
Absolutely, and it's really got in the way, in my opinion, of having a genuine grown-up discussion about it.
I struggle to think of another sort of civil liberties movement, because that's the terms in which I consider these. These are obviously looking for the civil liberties of fans, but like I don't know any other civil liberties group anywhere that gets the overt and sort of public criticism that you guys have had to put up with, and almost none of it really rings very true for me. So, see, in terms of obviously these relationships, like in terms of your campaign, like once you obviously got together and agreed on why you've obviously got together, like what was the next step? Because I think that, you know, speaking to guys like yourself, guys like the On The Ball, I was saying off mic before you come in, I think this is the kind of future of like democracy by people, is actual grassroots movements that campaign on single issues. So like, I want to kind of like just cover where do you even start?
So at the time, it was very much kind of firefighting, because the emergency legislation was either going to go through, or around about that time it had probably just been shelved. I can't remember the exact dates. And then we knew that the bill was still going to proceed after the summer.
Yeah.
So we were quite naive as well, I think, because we knew that it had to go through the kind of Justice Committee. We knew that the Celtic Trust, for example, would have the opportunity to present evidence. We would have an opportunity to submit submissions and stuff like that. So we kind of thought that what we'll do is we'll actually partake in this process, and if we can present proper evidence that, you know, as I say, on the 2 points that I mentioned earlier, on the points that, you know, law should be universal and that you can't, you know, outlaw something subjective as offensiveness, because it wouldn't work in any other facet of society. Imagine, you know, trying to tell, I mean, like, for example, I found, like, John Mason's campaign against gay marriage to be quite offensive. Right? I did. Now, does that mean that he doesn't have a democratic right to do it? No, it doesn't, right? And the same goes for, you know, any other facet of society. You know, if you're on your podcast, you can make joke comedians, you know, whatever it might be, right? You need to be able to have a fair and frank discussion for society to operate. Absolutely. So we thought by kind of pointing that out, there would be at least some concessions there. But the bottom line was is that the SNP had all the power. They had a majority government in a parliament that was kind of made to prevent majority governments. So there was no checks or balances, and they just done what they want. You know, they just rode roughshod over everyone. And then at that point, when the bill was voted in, as I say, you know, it was the first piece of legislation that had been voted through without any sort of cross-party support. We had the decision to make about whether or not we continue, because we were set up to try and prevent it, not to repeal it. You know, we were sent to we tried to stop it. And I think we felt that we had enough support and we had enough strength in our argument. And we also had a responsibility to help those who would no doubt be caught up in it. Whose lives would definitely be ruined. And that's what happened. So we decided to continue on, and it was a long fight. You know, it was 7 years really, from 2011 to 2018, from the conception of the Act to it being repealed. That we, you know, campaigned in a variety of ways. And as I say, we also tried to make sure that we offered support to not just Celtic fans, but fans of all clubs, should they be caught up in it. And fortunately, we won that particular battle.
So, I mean, in terms of, like, before and after the Act, because one of the arguments that, you know, I certainly heard throughout the process of the campaign was that there's laws already in place that cover almost all of this. Why do we need to double our work? So, like, was there an uptake in, you know, football-related arrests as a result of the legislation? Did it drop? Were they the same, do you know?
Well, I mean, the thing is about statistics is that the SNP were very good at making them say whatever they wanted. So there was like a year whereby, you know, the arrest figures went up. So, oh, look, arrests are going up, the Act's working, we're getting more people. Then the next year, arrests went down. It's like, look, nobody's doing it anymore. The Act's working, this proves it.
Right.
You know? So, the thing is as well, is that the SNP never set out at the start what it was they wanted to achieve, right? So if you don't set out what you want to achieve, you can then say anything after the fact when statistics come out to support your claim. So the what we seen was, more than anything, was that the conviction rate of cases that we dealt with was incredibly low. But the point that we continually tried to make is that the punishment wasn't necessarily in the conviction. So if you know, a normal fan, and it was normal fans, either dragged out of bed or dragged out the stand.
Some of them extremely young.
Yeah, kicked through a haphazard criminal justice system, you know, banned from football in the meantime, was, you know, alienated in some ways from your social circle. People lost jobs, people had fractured relationships, people had suffered mental health breakdowns because these cases went on for far longer than normal cases, and that's by the Scottish Government's own admission. So even, you know, after like 18 months, 2 years, as was often the case, and you've been through all that, to get a not guilty verdict doesn't undo any of that damage.
No, not at all.
And that was, you know, as much as you can argue about statistics and arrest figures, the human cost of this get totally lost a lot of the time, and that's what we really wanted to focus on.
And I think when we talk about balance, you know, that previously that evening up, there was no evening up of that harm that people went through as a result. There was no sort of counterbalance or any sort of real justification of it after the fact. And I think obviously that's one of the reasons. I think, and myself, it's almost a kind of admission of sort of failure and guilt that, you know, they just let people dangle at that and sort of suffer that.
It turned very vindictive, I think. I think the entire criminal justice system turned very vindictive when it came to dealing with fans. I mean, even on simple things, you know, like so we had like football prosecutors specifically to deal with football cases when you don't have them to deal with, you know, drugs or murder or anything else, but you had football prosecutors, and they would get the guidance from above, so it went right up to the Justice Minister, and even on stuff like you weren't allowed to plead cases down, so prosecutors didn't have the opportunity to say, look, you're charged with, you know, 3 things, so if you just take the one, you know, they weren't allowed to do that. They were specifically told not to do that. And that kind of vindictiveness,
it's almost
fed
desperation
through,
for these convictions.
It fed through absolutely everything that happened.
It's insane. So I mean, obviously, in terms of the Justice Minister, one of the things I remember at the time, I was at a sort of cup final in Hampden, and the opposition support spent 90 minutes talking about or singing about being up to their knees in my blood, only for then Justice Minister McCaskill at the time to come out and praise the atmosphere. Now, I think that as much as there was, as I say, movements to try and combat, you know, the scourge of sectarianism, etc., I think there's also a serious level of denial within the government during that process as well, because I don't get how you can legislate against it, stand in a stadium and hear it, and then come out in the press and then praise what just went on.
Well, I mean, Kenny McCaskill would have a cheek to moan about anybody's behaviour at football, wouldn't he, given his previous, when he was arrested for in Scotland. So, I mean, Kenny McCaskill, I mean, we I don't know if you've seen the video when we were at the Justice Committee, and it wasn't the Justice Committee, it was the Public Petitions Committee that he happened to sit on.
Right.
And if you've not seen it, you should watch it, because it's just hilarious. But his whole demeanour was totally bizarre. You know, he was really trying to attack us when we went in there that day. But this is a guy who, I don't think that it's much a coincidence that the first thing that Nicola Sturgeon done when she got in was pap him right out. That was more or less the first thing she done. And now, you know, he seems to spend his time, I think he writes for the Scotsman, doesn't he?
Right, okay, well, I'll always track him, but that's probably because he's at the Scotsman.
Yeah, I think that's what he does, and I can't be totally sure, but I think it's the Scotsman he writes for. But I mean, you talk about that understanding of sectarianism, you know, there was no legal definition of sectarianism in Scots law. And then, you know, after the bill's on the verge of being repealed, the Scottish Government commissioned this group, this working academic group, which again, you know, the people involved are maybe a bit dubious, I would say. But this group's commissioned to define what is sectarianism.
Right.
You've been legislating against it apparently for 7 years. It's laughable, but this is the Scottish Government. You know,
I wasn't aware of that. That's wild.
And it involves, you know, some of the usual Scottish Government's favourite academics, who again like to portray sectarianism as very much two-sided of one coin.
Yeah. There's a partisan issue there and how it's been investigated.
Absolutely, and you could guess the names even if I didn't tell you.
Yeah, probably.
What percentage of the arrests are Celtic Rangers fans? Is it 90%? Is it like really high? Since the Act?
Well, since the Act, as far as I'm aware, we've not seen any statistics that have been released as of yet. Not that I've seen anyway. But in terms of, I mean, Celtic and Rangers fans, what I would say is that there was a year that Rangers played Hibs, and that they, remember there was a pitch invasion.
Yeah, the Scottish
The
Cup final.
championship, right.
That
Scottish
real,
Cup
because
final,
so many were arrested in the kind of 6 months or whatever after that, and
Uh-huh.
even on the day, but obviously they were going through footage for up to a year after.
People's
I think.
faces getting posted on the front of the Daily Record.
Aye, all of that, right. So because of the amount of people that were arrested on that day, it very much skewed the figures for everybody else in terms of the life period of the act. But in terms of what we dealt with is, we dealt with a lot of Celtic fans because we probably had more credibility within the Celtic support than we maybe did with others.
Of course.
We did help Rangers fans who came to us, but they maybe weren't so readily willing to come to us. Right?
Of course.
That, right, whatever. But we dealt with primarily Celtic fans, and as I say, the vast majority were getting found not guilty, or it was being dropped on the day.
Yeah.
In cases that was going like 2.5 years, and then 5 minutes before trial it would get dropped. It's just laughable.
Crazy. So they'll just drag
laughable.
it out. Feels as though I'm pretty sure I remember reading these were involved here as well, like the cases in Amsterdam, which again, what was that, 3 years plus that those cases ran
Oh no,
for?
it was longer than that. 'Cause it was 2013, wasn't
Right.
it? And they've just concluded in January.
Yeah, it's only been a few months ago.
Very recently.
So, I mean, the Dutch judicial system is quite strange. So, what kind of happened was, if you remember, there was like a kind of group of Celtic fans who were arrested.
Yep.
They were kind of held for 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. They actually went to Dutch prison. They weren't held like a weekend in a station. They actually went to Dutch prison, and again, the psychological impact of that for some of those young guys must be horrendous. But then what happened was is that they kind of pled, were kind of found guilty in a kind of sham, kangaroo court almost. It was nonsense. And then there was a very lengthy appeals process, so it's almost as if you're kind of found guilty, and then the appeals process starts as almost a kind of proper kind of case, as we would see it. Right. It was quite bizarre. And then all bar one were found not guilty in January. And even the one that was found guilty for like defending himself against the police that he thought were Ajax casuals, which within the climate of that couple of days you can understand.
Yeah.
And not only were the majority found not guilty, but the sheriff also said that they should never have been charged.
Yeah.
And he was really damning of the police in terms of making the point that if someone in his position can't trust the word of a police officer, then the whole justice system crumbles fundamentally. So we made sure that we supported those guys. We held a bucket collection at Celtic Park. We also we held like a couple of days of gathering in statements and pictures and stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was a lot of that evidence that helped support the guys when they were in court. So I think once we had set up to, even though our focus was largely the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act, it did become a kind of broader fans movement, and we were able to help and support fans who'd been caught up either at home and abroad, and police harassment and being criminalised. So that kind of still continues, that aspect of it. We're still able to help supporters, and as much as we'd kind of talked about, a single issue campaign, and we got what we wanted ultimately with the repeal. We kind of knew that we didn't want to kind of batten down the hatches, because we knew that there was always the potential for something else to come back. And that, what I would also say is that even without the Offensive Behaviour Act being in place, a lot of the cultural problems of policing football matches that came with the Offensive Behaviour Act still remain.
Absolutely.
You can't undo the kind of mindset of police officers who have been trained ultimately now to view fans as a criminal threat, and that's some of the stuff that we put out recently about the kind of crushing incident before the Celtic Rangers game at Celtic Park in September. And I can go into detail on that.
We'll cover that as we go. I mean, obviously you did kind of touch on it briefly there, but how things have sort of changed. But the repeal itself, like, obviously you've said to us it's a 7-year process. Obviously quite lengthy. I mean, we were obviously admittedly on it, so all I ever did was retweet the odd sort of thing here and there, but obviously followed it and believed in it. But I was absolutely delighted to hear the repeal go through. Like, what was it like on the inside?
It was some buzz, like, especially getting into this. I missed the there was the first vote, right, which was was it January or something like that, maybe February. And I was in work and I couldn't get the day off work, so like I'm trying to like secretly sit with my phone at my desk and that and watch it. And then, I mean, there wasn't much of a margin for error,
No.
you know, in terms of the difference between the votes, and there was always wee things changing, like the odd MSP would maybe take seriously not well, or there was the ongoing Mark McDonald issue as well, who'd been kind of suspended for the whip, and then I think they brought him back in to vote on it, and all of this stuff, right? So even though we had a cushion of a couple of votes, it wasn't enough to, you know, be sitting and putting the feet up.
You weren't sitting popping champers in the morning or anything.
Absolutely. You know, we knew that there was still work to be done. So throughout the entire bill, I mean, even the process of the bill, James Kelly's bill, that was 2 years. You know, that going through the kind of parliamentary procedures. So we were always trying to make sure that we were kind of keeping in touch with the opposition parties. We were lobbying other groups like Liberty, biggest civil rights group in the UK, the Law Society, keeping in touch with these types of guys. And also we were continually putting out our own stuff. We put out like an hour-long video that kind of brought the kind of whole campaign together. And then on the day of the final vote, so we took a bus through from Glasgow City Centre. And then there was, you know, a good 2 hours of debate before it, and, you know, like listening to guys like James Dornan, absolutely furious, absolutely bailing. And I think he's still not over it. I think that's absolutely clear.
There's been comments recently, hasn't there?
It's only really when I mean, the bottom line is we're not a group of highly trained political operatives. We're just a group of normal football fans who kind of felt like we had to respond to this. That's all we are. We've certainly not had any delusions of grandeur in that regard. So it was also the first time, since I was in like primary school, I think maybe the first year or two of secondary, that I had been in to the actual chamber of the Scottish Parliament. I mean, I've been in the Parliament to meet with MSPs and stuff like that. But so I mean, you really feel like the kind of weight of the establishment you're up against. You know, when you come in and you see the First Minister and the kind of cabinet sitting there, and you think, you know, be a group of banned football fans that have took these guys on, and you know, it was very, very nervy waiting, sitting watching the vote, and then Ken McIntosh calls the vote, and I mean, it's like, you watch the clip back, it's like 6 seconds, but it felt like about 20 minutes just sitting there, sweat pouring out you, just waiting to make sure that everybody's there and everybody presses the right button and all that, and then it came through and it was just elation. We were just delighted, and we were relieved as well, because we had a lot of people who were very much relying on us to get that over the line. You know, people who still had charges and stuff like that. And it was fantastic. It was a great day. It was a day that I'd imagine we'll all remember. And then we had the champagne in the bus back. We had that ready, and then went into the pub in that night. And it really was. It was a fantastic time.
Excellent. I mean, one of the things, and you know, as well as being delighted for you, following the story over a period of time, I've become quite wary or quite aware quite quickly the rhetoric of the opposition. I mean, it was clear, as you say, for guys like Dornan and so on and so forth, that this was a bloody nose for their government, that they weren't willing to let go. And even now, and we'll come to that in a bit, some of the sort of things that have been levelled at you in the last few weeks, it seems as though that initial, you know, dismissiveness that really probably caused the government to undermine or underestimate these. It feels to me like they've not learned anything for the loss. It seems to me as though they've actually, if anything, doubled down on the rhetoric on display to try and demonise fans in your organisation even more.
I mean, some of the stuff that's come out of it, I mean, we used to get it, you know, you would have like, you know, I would go on, I remember going on like a Celtic fan podcast and kind of talking about it, and it was like a live one, and it had like a wee chat streaming down. And like, even when I'm talking to people like that, oh, he's just a unionist plant, he's a totally this and that. He's not like a campaign for independence, you know what I mean? And it's just like some of the nonsense that people come out with. And like, you almost expect it to some extent from social media, for Twitter, for people who can only see the world through the gaze of like the constitutional question or partisan political politics or whatever else, right? You know, if you're having a go at the Scottish government, you know, you're their enemy as far as they see it, and they'll fling whatever mud at you that can stick, right? And that's fair enough. I've got thick enough skin to deal with that. But when you start seeing, you know, actual like elected representatives, and in some cases, high-ranking police officials coming out with these absolutely absurd allegations about these lies. It's preposterous.
The tantrums. That's the only way that I can describe some of the attacks that have been on you as actual professionals at a higher level having tantrums in public. It's absolutely crazy. And party politics, as much as I'm not consciously aware of Fans Against Criminalisation ever openly, saying we are pro this or that, anything other than just our issue. You know what I mean? But I actually tweeted Hamza Yusuf in response to one of the FAC tweets during the week where he was just the usual stick. And I was like, well, hold on a minute. Like, this legislation did not solve sectarianism. I still don't see an alternative. You've not come up with anything here that is any sort of meaningful strategy.
Well, that was part of what he'd said to a Labour MSP. Was that where was the alternative? And it's like, well, you're in fucking government.
I like the other.
So if you want an alternative, you're the ones that have got the platform to actually come up with it. If you really want to do it. But they've almost went, like Matt said, they've doubled down on. No, this was the right idea, and we want it back, rather than going back to the drawing board and maybe coming up with something that's a wee bit better.
I mean, even in the last couple of weeks, so you've had Hamza, who is now the Cabinet Secretary for Justice. That is a serious job.
Yeah.
And I do find myself scratching my head wondering how on earth he has ever managed to get as far as he has. But he's still referring to the laws and antis after how well he done with ScotRail. But this is a guy who's still referring to the legislation as an anti-sectarian bill.
Anti-sectarian
and you're
bill.
Like, where have you been for the last 7 years?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy. I mean, we've had run-ins with Hamza before. Before it was actually the day before the last Scottish election, and myself and Jeanette Finlay, Fans Against Criminalisation.
Yep.
There had been an SNP demo at the kind of Donald Dewar statue in the Cannon Galleries, so we went there, and Nicola Sturgeon was there, but she was mobbed. So I seen Hamza, and I'd spoke to Hamza before, so I was going to him, like, when are you going to get a grip on this? And he was kind of rushing away from me a wee bit, and we're walking up the Cannon Galleries. It's a kind of it's up by the tire rack going up, a kind of slant up towards the kind of escalator bit, and he's gone like, Paul, you're in a campaign with Jeanette Finlay, who's in bed with the Orange Order. Unbeknownst to him, Jeanette Finlay was right behind him. It was like pantomime stuff, right? And then he denied he said it, right? And he came out and called us liars. But it happened, right? Why on earth would be like?
Yeah, what's the point otherwise?
But he ended up getting the escalators up, and he was shouting, "Oh, we'll see how far you get on your 2-person campaign. We'll see how far you get."
And Jeanette's one of the most vocal supporters of, things like Call It Out and all the rest of it, in terms of, that's a wild accusation.
This is the type of guy that Hamza is. But, I mean, you've had him flinging about stuff like that. You've had Wings Over South East England saying that we were, he was giving it about how they're this sectarian Labour front.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who still blames Liverpool fans for what happened at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's repulsive.
Absolutely.
The idea that anybody still gives him any sort of credence or platform it just shocks me.
Yeah.
And then you have a junior police officer who's come out and said that because we wouldn't engage with their sham review, that FAC are apologists for criminality.
So that was outrageous.
I can't imagine any other context in which a police officer of that type of standing would come out against a law-abiding democratic protest group.
I don't think
it's
that is.
absolutely ludicrous.
You know what I mean?
Sure, man.
Not as far as I know. I mean, people might be able to point out that.
What disappointed me, especially with because I'm pro independence, and especially looking at Hamza on Twitter the last couple of weeks, backwards and forwards with people almost like in a Trump style. You're just like,
he needs to grow up.
He needs to grow up.
Really
It's very, very childish, but it's like the identity politics of it all, that people, just because it's an SNP policy. I mean, I've felt this myself when I've come out in support of FAC, as people are attacking you, and you're like, well, clearly you don't know who I am, because you're claiming that I'm a unionist. And
I mean, I like, as I say, I would get stuff like that and put it in my group chat, and my mates would all be, pissing themselves because they know me and they know what my politics are, and they know that, the notion of me being some unionist plant is just laughable. But as I say, there's an element of Twitter that you almost expect it, right? Yeah. I'm not saying it's right, but whatever, you know what I mean? I'm not going to grate over.
It's a cold Twitter brain farts.
I'm not going to sit and grate or get offended about what some lunatic thinks on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
But when you start having, you know, these mad allegations, and this is just a few that we've spoken about, that start really festering within the government and within the highest echelons of the police, that's when, you know, it starts to have a detrimental impact, I think, on democracy, because I mean, you talk about fake news, you know what I mean? And stuff like, I mean, Dornan as well. Dornan used to come out with stuff about how we were apparently well funded, you know, like trying to make a kind of insinuation that we've got
dark
some
money and all that.
like,
corporate backing
it's
for
just not,
sectarianism.
I mean, where is he? I mean, who on earth is that him doing? It just it bewilders me, because, as I say, at the end of the day, I mean, you could come to some of the FAC committee meetings, it's just normal people. It's just normal football fans. And the notion that this is some mad conspiracy against Scottish independence is hysterical.
Yeah.
I mean, especially given that, you know, I voted for Scottish independence.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think one of the things that people sometimes struggle to do in terms of that identity, in terms of that, you know, sort of partisanship, is separate, you know, their desire for a wider issue, you know, versus essentially the kind of cult of party in some respects. And, like, for me, and I think you touched on it earlier on, like, I don't really feel in 10 years of going to football matches in Scotland that the terraces have really changed all that much. But at the same time, particularly in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, probably for maybe like Steve Clark's comments onwards, there's been this massive focus, and it's portrayed as though something new is happening again. And I don't really, you know, being there, I don't really feel that trend.
No, as I say, I mean, the last few weeks have just been insane in terms of the kind of media's response to stuff. I think there have been incidents, it's just snowballed from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I say, nobody in their right mind is trying to defend some idiot throwing a coin at an opposition player or manager or whatever, right? Nobody. But again, it's just about having a reasonable discussion and having a proportionate response. Now, like I watched the Rangers Hibs game on Friday night, and then the BBC the article, it's more or less as soon as the game's over, right? So I read it, and it was like, the kind of theme was, you know, like, this was a competitive game, end-to-end fixture, ferocious atmosphere, great advert for Scottish football, and it was ruined by one idiot. You're like, well, it wasn't ruined, was it? I mean, if we went to a concert, it was attended by like 20,000 people, and the band were brilliant for 2 hours, and it was a great night, and one idiot tried to rush the stage, we wouldn't even be discussing it on the way home, let alone turn on the radio and there's this long debate about it, or you open your paper and it's this shame of concert goers.
3-page spread.
It just wouldn't happen. It would just, that person would personally be charged, they would be convicted, and you'd never hear it again, right? And that is what it should absolutely be charged.
That's kind of what happened with Scott Brown, was attacked at Ibrox.
Aye.
So I'm saying it's always been there, batteries thrown, and various other examples, instances, like the singing's always been there.
I mean, in terms of, if it's, again, you know, you look at like arrest figures for like fans, it's like 34 or 40 people arrested. You know, you look at, like I think Eminem played in like the Glasgow game, 34 people arrested. The Stone Roses played, it was 24 people arrested. You get down to the front of a concert, you talk about missiles, count how many pint tumblers you get hit with. You'll be lucky if half of them are filled with beer too, because the other half will be filled with something else. And again, there's no this mad public outcry of shame of concert goers. Let's bring in, let's take top 10 singles off bands. You know what I mean? It's just ludicrous.
I had that Buckfast bottle narrowly missed me at an Oasis concert in Murrayfield.
And nobody's defending that, right? Absolutely nobody. But can we just have an adult discussion without this
you're thinking about that. I wonder what that fucking idiot was thinking when he threw that. You're not thinking, do you know what we need? Legislation against Oasis fans. If you're going to an Oasis concert and you throw something,
every concert should have a net 8 feet high to stop missiles or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not happening, is it? So I think, and you know, moving on for that, that sort of public discussion, that grown-up discussion that we're talking about here, it's not happened in the legislative process.
No.
And in my experience, and again, before we come on, I'm not a practicer of any religion. I don't personally consider myself to have any heritage in, you know, either camp when it comes to the, you know, the notions of Glasgow and sectarianism. Like, I'm just a football fan. And And even my experience of policing off the back of this legislation, I've got to say, there's times when I've felt intimidated by it.
Of course.
I mean, I had only just taken my daughter to her first game about 2 weeks before the kettling incident on the Gallagher.
Right, okay.
And it wouldn't be unusual for us to be in like McCool's
and head
or
up that
whatever it is
direction,
on the way to the game. So I mean, I did see the pictures and see the videos at that point and thought to myself, the fuck is actually happening here? Like, because I could have quite easily have been there way
100%.
at the time, my sort of 6-7-year-old daughter,
Hamilton
and people
fans
were.
kettled yesterday, weren't they?
I don't really know much more about that, but I do
Other
know
than
that
the footage that appeared on
basically,
Twitter. So that's not even something that's stopped.
It's no stopped, and alongside that, this was something that I never imagined happening in Scottish football, or to Scottish football fans in that respect, being treated in that manner. But something that, again, kind of similar to that we touched on before was the crush at Celtic Park. Now, I was actually in the middle of that. Me and the lads were wandering through the back concourse on the way to the match, as we do every Saturday or every other Saturday. And we weren't really paying attention to what was going on about us, and then all of a sudden we physically couldn't move. Now, I was in literally the middle of it. Two of the lads that I was with managed to get out. I mean, I was watching people put their reins on their shoulders. I was watching people form chains to lift people out into the graveyard. And the police afterwards said, great on us, we solved this issue, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it wasn't. I seen a row of Celtic fans link arms and actually push bodies back to create space. And it was only after things started to move again that I seen any sort of high vis. So, I mean, as you say, 4 games a year, saturation, at times when it comes to Celtic and Rangers, like how does that happen in the modern day?
Well, I mean, in terms of the kind of crushing incident, so there's a few things that need to be kind of looked at. So in terms of, there was absolutely a failure in the way that was planned and the way it was policed, right? So obviously you had a change in stadium dynamics in terms of, there was far more, 7,500, whatever it was, more Celtic fans than usual, right? Now, that isn't like there would have been the same amount of Celtic fans there yesterday, but the difference is that because it was Rangers, the police still shut off a huge amount at a London road, and they were directing the traffic in particular ways. So Celtic fans could only come in certain ways. There was the additional problem of the fact that it was a Sunday 12 o'clock. Now, if it's a Saturday 3 o'clock, most fans will get there a wee bit early, maybe go to the pub, have their own routine, right? But when it's Sunday 12 o'clock, everybody's aim is just to get there.
Getting out of bed and getting there.
Even now, in terms of like the boats and stuff like that were coming over from Ireland, the earliest they could get in was, I mean, in terms of getting a boat and then driving up from Stranraer, was maybe 15 minutes before kick-off, right? So that's everything going well. So you're already creating that environment for something like that to occur, right? And then it was really poorly policed on the day. But what you then have, when things actually started to develop, what the police have to do is step in and take control of the situation, right? That's what you would expect. Now, we, as FAC, and then the kind of Celtic Trust, dealt with a lot of what we've done is we gathered in statements, FAC, that went to the Celtic Trust about people's experiences on that day. And some of them were, I wasn't caught up in it. I go on a different bit. I was at the game, but I didn't really know about it until after the game. It was really hard to read. It was really harrowing, where you were reading experiences of people who genuinely thought that they were going to die and genuinely thought that, as you say, people having to hold their kids up on their shoulders, old people all huddled round trying to protect each other. But then another theme that started coming through is that when people were approaching the police and asking for help, they were either met with total ambivalence, or more likely they were met with hostility and they were threatened with arrest. If they had the temerity to go and ask the police what's going on, what he's doing, they were threatened with arrest. Now, the reason that something like that was allowed to happen for as long as it was is because Police Scotland, culturally within their organisation, view football fans as criminals. They view football fans as potential sources of disorder. So when it comes to a game like that and an event like that, all they're looking for, all they're trained to do is to look out for potential sources of disorder, to apprehend people and get them in a van. That's all they're prepared for, and that's where their mindset is. So when another situation develops that requires the help of police to alleviate a situation and protect fans, their automatic response is, who do you think you're talking to? Get away from me if you want to see the game. If you don't want to get to jail, you better get away from me. You can be right to even come and start discussing this with me. And that was, I mean, the video that we released, you know, it was, this is that we had that kind of discussed some of this. This wasn't, you know, like young 20-year-old guys who'd had a bit to drink, who, I'm not saying they deserve to be treated like that, but who society might see as being the kind of crux of the issue when it comes to. These were normal people, you know, middle-aged people, men, women, older people, children, absolutely, you know, a microcosm of society almost caught up underneath that stand, and the police were slow to react and were hostile to those who were seeking help because of the way they view football supporters. And then the next day they released a statement saying that the build-up started 10 minutes before the game, which is just patently untrue. It's a lie.
I was stuck in there for 20 minutes. Easy. Easy.
It's a lie. And it's even a lie by their own admission, because we put in a Freedom of Information request to get their match log, which showed that they knew at a minimum 20 minutes before the game that build-up was happening. So the reason, you can only surmise that the reason they put that statement out there the next day is to deflect blame from themselves for their operational failures onto fans for showing up late. And I mean, again, the historical echoes of those types of responses by police to incidents of near disaster don't need explained, but it's still chilling. And the only reason, as you say, that we didn't have fatalities that day is because fans remained exceptionally calm, given the circumstances, and worked together to try and alleviate the situation. Otherwise, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind there would have been deaths.
As I get pushed back out, I mean, as we've discussed in other podcasts, you know, I occasionally have bouts of anxiety. I'd sweat clean through every item of clothing I'd wore. On the way back out, I'd seen people literally sprawled out, you know, getting, like, you know, fanned and all that kind of stuff. I get separated from my mates. When we actually get into the stadium, I was myself. I was then closely followed by a mate, but it still left one of the lads completely unaccounted for, and we had no idea what was going on. Even, you know, 10, 15 minutes into the game, he walked in 10 minutes after the game, like pure, it had started, going, that was wild. And you're like, I know, but thankfully, you know, we weren't amongst any injured. But I think even when you see the severity, the aftermath of it, to then try and just dismiss it the way the police had, without any real meaningful investigation, was a joke. And I think that kind of follows with where we are in the last week or so, with, you know, notions of, I don't know how to put it any other way, how they independently reviewed themselves. As much as I do have a level of respect for, you know, what the police do and stuff like that to a certain extent, you shouldn't be immune to criticism just because you provide a service. And when you're not meeting the sort of standards that are required, you do have to be held to account. And I think the notion that you can do that to yourself in any walk of life is laughable.
But I mean, so we'd already been kind of calling for an independent review because, as I say, you know, the cultural problems that came with the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act were evidently still an issue. And we'd seen that with the kind of early season, some of the incidents that had occurred with fans being filmed and harassed and followed and whatnot. But the day after that happened, James Kelly in particular was saying, like, enough's enough, we need to have an independent review, for everybody's sake, for the police as well, you know, so that they can learn through where it's going wrong, you know, if there's procedural issues they need to learn from, or, you know, if even if they felt that they were really in the right, if they appointed in, if there was a kind of independently agreed parliamentary committee or whatever to look at this, everybody would feel much more satisfied with what came out, you know, whatever way it fell. But what they wanted to do is they seen the momentum gathering for this call, right, for this need for either maybe the Justice Committee or the Sport and Health Committee or whoever to properly look into this. And what they've done is they tried to head it off the pass and say, look, because they knew what was going to come out. So what they done was they thought, right, what we'll do is we'll appoint our own guy who'll, you know, carry out this. We'll push it as independent. A lot of the mainstream media have really let fans down, I think, and continually putting out that line of this independent review. Like, Chris McLaughlin was the worst. Yeah. And you're like, I mean,
come on.
I'm not expecting them to come out and have a go at the police. And I'm not expecting, you know, them to take our line. You know,
I mean, he is ultimately a sports journalist.
Right, again, But for them to be saying that this is independent and to just be pushing that out uncritically is embarrassing for any journalist, really. And, you know, so, I mean, we had decided not to engage in it, but we knew that it was going to be coming out, so we got some stuff prepared to go out. But what the need for a review still remains. Still, I mean, in terms of the review that they've put out, it doesn't even mention that day. There's not one mention.
Yeah, I know that.
Not one mention of that day, and that was.
But yeah, that's how it's reported in the press. The press have reported it as a report on the crushing at Celtic Park.
See, even the way the press have like reported stuff about, like, you know, like the incidents of coins being thrown.
Yeah.
People need to ask themselves. As much as I'm not defending in any way throwing a coin, people need to ask themselves what was more dangerous. Thousands upon thousands of people being crushed in, like, you know, sardines under Celtic Park in a situation that wasn't moving and that the police were exacerbating, not helping, or, you know, a 50 piece thrown for 20 yards.
By an idiot.
You know, like, what is more likely to cause loss of life? And the answer for me is pretty simple, yet there has been, you know, like almost endless column inches dedicated to fan behaviour, but absolutely nothing whatsoever that I've seen that has properly addressed how the police conducted themselves on that day.
Yeah. I mean, and again, part of it is that intimidation that I've talked about sometimes feeling at games when you tie in the constant filming of supporters just because they're supporters and the notion that people's doors are being kicked in at, you know, dawn because they sang a song at a football match. Like, these are things that if that's actually what's going on and there is clear evidence that there is, like, why would you know what to address it for? So this is a government that currently is trying to pitch itself in liberal, sort of progressive terms.
That's a laughable thing,
but like, this for me is not just an attack on free expression, it's an attack on free thought, because there are parts of it where you're trying to legislate against what's in people's heads. And for me, that's something that is just draconian. But you know what I mean? Like,
again, like, you would... I would think that James Dornan probably sees himself as being on the left of the SNP, yet he's coming across increasingly like a right-wing demagogue, demanding punitive action and demanding that everybody's punished and demanding that we come down hard and fast on the entirety of the kind of what is largely a working-class crowd. And, you know, again, like, you wonder if they'll ever take a step back and think, right, hold on a minute, you know, this rhetoric's getting out of hand. But I think, you know, the evidence suggests that they won't, that they've become so...
entrenched.
Entrenched in their views, and the you know, any notion of having, as I say, an adult discussion about this, you know, seems
This is kind of one of the ironies that I've kind of felt throughout the process, is that bigotry and sectarianism is, you know, it's been portrayed as something that comes out a level, at least, of like religious or political zealotry. Yet the actual real zealotry we've faced has been in the rhetoric and the actions of those in power.
That's what I loved about, you know, the reactions we would get on Twitter about people saying, oh, football fans are all bigots and it's all just about tribalism, and you're like, you've been caught up in that tribalism, you know, and you can't see it.
The hypocrisy in that's incredible, isn't it?
Aye, but like, and you're trying to explain it, and you feel like a doctor trying to appease a hypochondriac, you know what I mean? Trying to explain that, look, we're no actually big. I actually defend Rangers fans. You know, we've helped Rangers fans, even though I'm a Celtic fan. But, you know, you can't see the merits of an argument just because of blind partisanship, and that's what has skewed so much of this debate. And it's really unfortunate because, as I say, I mean, in terms of one of the things that I thought was best about, or what I was really optimistic about at the time in the independence referendum, was the kind of politicisation of, you know, masses of young people who are all of a sudden much more switched on to the kind of political and social world around them. And I thought that was a fantastic thing. And then, you know, it just, but, you know, in terms of when football fans were expressing political views, and it was largely young fans,
I would rather listen to 16-year-olds on anything else apart from this. You know,
it was you know, that oppression still had to, was still meted out by the SNP, and football fans were still being clamped down on. And I mean, James Dornan almost summed it up, didn't he? I mean, one of the things he's trying to do now is with his strict liability that they're trying to bring in. But this is a guy who tweeted out a photo of the Celtic fan protest
In
like,
Palestine.
Aye. So we had all these Palestine flags when Celtic played Hartwell, Beersheva. James Dornan comes out, praises it to the high hilt.
Yep.
And then Celtic are fined under the very strict liability laws that he now wants to bring in.
Yep.
He also done the same way when Barcelona had kind of pro-Catalan stuff. So it's not necessarily politics in football he disagrees with, it's just politics that he disagrees with.
Yeah.
In football that he disagrees
Aye.
with.
And the zealotry that we're kind of talking about and the kind of notions of like overreach, which we've sort of covered to this point, like for me, this is where it becomes like a civil liberty issue, and it stops being about people's opinions or the sort of stereotypical image that some people have of football fans. And it's like, who are the government to decide what we are allowed to say in a free society? Like, who are the government to like define to us what is offensive? Like,
It's no that. I mean, it's just no the role of the state, is it, to determine. I mean, out with the kind of obviously there's the kind of binary of hate crime and speech that is specifically hateful or somebody based on their protected characteristics, right? That's fine, and by and large that's in place. So I know there's going to maybe be some changes to that following the recent report, and that's all fine. And legislation should always change and develop and over time and come to meet society's needs as that changes, right? Absolutely. That's fine. But to bring into, this idea of outlawing offensiveness, and so much of it was just about, in my view, it was about stopping people from expressing certain political views that the SNP weren't supportive of.
Felt like a foot in the door to me.
It's a really dangerous step for a democratic society to take.
If they really, why do they allow the walks? If they really want to deal with sectarianism, if this is, let's say Humza's saying this is an anti-sectarianism act, and why do they allow them to walk? I'm offended by the Orange Walk. I've always been offended by the Orange Walk, I've got to say, as a Catholic.
I dislike them, but I think they should be allowed, again, as a notion of free expression.
I'm not necessarily for the banning of the Orange Walk. Yeah. But if you're going to start to legislate, why not deal with that first?
What I would say is that I agree that, I think the Orange Order have a democratic right to, as a person of Irish and Catholic descent, they have every right to hate me all they want. They don't have a right to make it my problem. Yeah. They can certainly, I think they should be allowed to march. I don't think they should be allowed to march past Catholic churches.
No, absolutely not. It's an idea that like the legislation and the opinions around it probably needs to evolve.
There's over 2,000 streets in Glasgow, 60 odd with Catholic churches on them. Let them march the rest of them, that's fine. But the notion of them continuing to get past Catholic churches, I think that has to be brought to an end. And again, there has to be a discussion about that, but it's something, it comes back to what I was saying about the real issues of discrimination and bigotry. It's not about, sort of football fans singing and shouting at each other. It just isn't. It's about the systemic problems that have manifested themselves in ways. Obviously, I don't even think the Orange Walk is a massive issue. I think a massive issue is education, and it's dead easy to say that, right? Everybody said, it should just be education. We have to understand, what are we teaching our kids? Yep. And what you have is groups like Nil by Mouth and Sense Over Sectarianism going in with the same old tired nonsense. Yep. And some of their material, in my opinion, is bigoted. Some of the stuff that they put out is certainly some of the Sense Over Sectarianism stuff that talks about how, there's like one piece, for example, and it's like the Irish tricolour. Yeah. And this is, in a pamphlet that they give to kids, and this is the Irish tricolour, this has nothing to do with Scotland or football. And you're like, why would you even say that?
Why link them then?
What they're trying to do is they're trying to undermine the notion that it's okay to have an Irish tricolour. And again, it's obvious to me that there's an attempt to undermine even an ordinary kind of Irish identity, a multi-generational Irish diaspora identity. And what you need to get to the bottom of with this issue of sectarianism is the structural inequalities that are in place. So as I say, if there wasn't such inequality, you wouldn't be able to distinguish the Irish diaspora or the Catholic community from statistics. But we are distinguishable. In ways I've already explained. The fact that they're more likely to live in poverty, be in jail, die younger. But almost all hallmarks you could possibly go by. but those are really tricky issues to deal with.
Absolutely.
And as I say, even you're talking about orange walks, you know, a lot of that culture is embedded in certain parts of the west of Scotland and beyond.
It's part of who they are. They're not going to get up.
And as I say, to properly tackle some of these attitudes and to properly try and evolve as a society isn't easy. It's not an easy task for a government, and it's not even necessarily a vote winner either. But what is more likely to grab the public's attention is coming down hard and fast and fit for fans. It's just much easier.
Absolutely.
But what it would take is it would take a lot more courage, I think, from a government, a lot more awareness of the nature of the problem, and a real willingness to not just win votes, to not just, fling a
I would love to see the day where the Scottish Parliament sees every single corner of the chamber vote in favour of something that may actually work.
They need to be open-minded. They need to get rid of old ways of thinking. They need to realise that there needs to be something new, that rather than it just being the same old shit that's getting slung at.
It's Catholic schools, it's whatever, it's just a pure tired old trope, isn't it?
Again, we would get the Catholic schools argument a lot from people who, again, see themselves as progressive, but the argument against Catholic schools is really just how middle class Scotland expresses their anti-Irish racism and anti-Catholic bigotry, in my opinion. And they don't understand why Catholic schools were needed at the time, because they don't understand the genesis of this issue.
Yeah.
People even within my own community won't understand how we came to be here, because you're not taught it at school.
Yeah.
You're not taught, why is it that there's such a big community of Catholics in what is a predominantly Protestant country? Why is it that all these people travelled over from Ireland? What different waves of immigration were there? And what discrimination did they face at the outset? And what's changed? What is better and what's not? And it's only by understanding that evolution, that change, can you get to any sort of, right, this is where we are now, this is what we still need to tackle. But as I say, if you look at the material that goes into schools, by nil by mouth and central for sectarianism, and these government funded groups who just peddle this line that it's the West Coast of Scotland, it's football, it's Glasgow, and they just hate each other because they want their team to win a league, and it's nonsense.
It's so simplified a view.
It's for me, it's very much it echoes a lot as well, is that, like you looked at the Trump and Hillary Clinton's campaign, and a lot of Clinton's campaign seemed to suggest that, all these people in the South, Middle America are just racist because they're not quite as nice as us middle class.
Yeah, we're more evolved and sophisticated.
We're just a bit nicer and a bit more tolerant and a bit more intelligent. And it's the same thing. Just these working class people, they just don't really get a saw about football. They've not got much else in their lives. And it fails to understand the structural issues that have created those types of opinions and have created those types of mindsets. And unless you really get to where it all started and understand that, you can't hope to just eradicate it by, as I say, knee-jerk ludicrous legislation.
And I think this is why we see so many of the cases in question fail. Why the conviction rate has been as low as it has been, because if you don't understand the people involved, you don't understand the history involved, you don't understand the structures that you're standing up against, and you're not having an honest sort of public debate about it, then how does your legislation ever be successful?
But, I mean, if you don't have, if we can't have a kind of mature discussion about it, if we don't understand the roots of it, if we don't understand how it's evolved and where we are now, how on earth is a random police officer meant to act as a sociologist in the midst of a football game and try to understand what does that mean, and what does this mean, and what's the context of this?
Teach them lyrics of songs.
It's ludicrous. How on earth? And I don't often come to the defence of the police, right? But I think this could only have been applied arbitrarily, right? Because if you're saying that you need to go, if you're given the instruction of you need to go and arrest anybody who does anything offensive, where do you even start with that? Like a guy going up shouting at the referee, or somebody
Get
comes
some
in.
cuffs on Frankie Boyle.
Aye, somebody comes in.
something like that.
Aye, somebody comes in wearing double denim. You're like, oh, that's a bit dodgy. Well,
To be fair though, double denim. Come on, man. Like,
They might deserve a jail.
But so this notion that they have to, only apply. So they have to go and find something that's offensive to someone somewhere who may or not find out about it or may or not actually exist. They have to go and find something that is offensive, right?
Yeah.
So it's too broad. You can't arrest everybody who says a swear word, right?
No.
You can't arrest everybody who shouts at an opposition player or shouts at the referee, right? You just can't do it. So the only way that you can then, in any way, meaningfully apply that instruction is by kind of involving your own prejudices of, I find that offensive, so I'm going to focus on that type of behaviour, and that's where it really starts to break down when you take a lot.
Because it's the targeting, it's no the subjective, policing. I'm here, this has happened. I'm going to go and address it. It then becomes, here is what I'm actively looking for, and I'm going to argue that's what I've just seen.
That was one of the things. So after I think it was after the 7/7 attacks in London, the Metropolitan Police had these kind of emergency powers that allowed them to stop and search people, right? Now, see when you go into an airport...
Which always ends well.
See when you go into an airport, right, you accept that parts of your kind of liberty have to be given up, you have to be searched, because there's a very, very specific threat, right? And we all do it, and we all have to accept that's a price worth paying, right? But it's when you make it broader that becomes a problem. So the Metropolitan Police had these broad powers that allowed them to stop and search people, right? What they were doing was they were actually reenacting them every 24 hours, and nobody knew about it 2 years later, right? But because they've got these powers that allow them to stop and search people, and it's no specific to a particular threat, right? No. It's much broader. So what starts happening is these police officers, rather than looking for a specific threat, because they can stop and search almost anybody, you can't stop and search everybody. So what happens is their prejudices take over. And then what happened is lots and lots of Muslim and black men in particular have been stopped and searched, and that bore out in the statistics. And it's the same thing.
It almost always does with stop and search.
Aye, but it's the same principle. If you have something as broad as offensive, that can't actually be policed, right? That's ludicrous. You can't possibly arrest everybody who does something that's offensive. So the only way you can approach that is by your mindset and where your mind takes you and what you find offensive, and then your prejudices kick in and people start being arrested for these types of behaviours, and then it does create a real problem of kind of prejudice within the law.
Absolutely.
And then by the time a lot of this stuff gets to court, it gets laughed out because it's ludicrous. But as I say, in the meantime, there's a real human cost of that person's life who's been turned upside down for up to 2.5 years.
It was the damage that we see to, like, obviously people in terms of their jobs, their careers, their working, sort of social, personal life and stuff like that. There has to also be a damage to something like the public purse. So if we're policing ineffectively, we're legislating ineffectively, and we're failing to gain convictions off the back of that over X amount of months and years, the 7 years or so since before the repeal, like, what kind of impact does that have when there are already largely laws that cover a lot of these issues probably slightly more effectively?
Well, I mean, it must have cost them an absolutely obscene amount of money. Now, what I would say is one of the reasons I think the police were so keen for the Act to come in is that when it did come in, it allowed them, at a time whereby public services were being slashed, you're talking 2012, 2013, 2011, what was happening was when the Act came in, they were being allowed a considerable chunk of the anti-sectarian budget, between £1 and £1.2 million. So it certainly benefited the police that they had access to that money that they wouldn't have otherwise had. But in terms of the cost of, because you're not talking about, this is one of the things I always try to stress, is that, you have officers now in the kind of focus team whose full-time job is football fans, right? So you're not talking about police who, Monday to Friday, walk your beat in Easterhouse or in wherever, right? And then Saturday pick up an extra, bit of money.
Couple of hours overtime.
Aye, right, doing a bit of overtime. But there's actually teams now that are Monday to Friday, going to an office and sitting, going through CCTV of football fans.
Yeah, gathering intelligence.
Gathering intelligence on football fans, following, and it's their job to follow fans from the minute almost they leave their house to the minute they return to it, sitting outside pubs. At the weekend there, yesterday there was a mobile CCTV unit outside a Celtic pub that followed Celtic fans walking all of maybe 6 minutes up to Celtic Park. In terms of the cost of that, and then there's the legal proceedings, there's the lawyers, there's the man hours. Even I've had a bit of a crash course, I guess, in the kind of Scottish legal system through being involved, in fact, and I cannot believe the state of it. I just can't believe how much of a riot it is. You go into Glasgow Sheriff Court, and it's meant to start at 10 a.m. And it is just generally accepted that it will not start until maybe 10:30, 11:15, whatever it is. And all throughout that time, lawyers have been paid, prosecutors have been paid, but everybody that's charged or everybody that's a witness is taking time off of work. If any of us ran a work and showed up 45 minutes
it's
each
day, every day.
you know what I mean? You'd be showing the amount of waste, and I can't believe that nobody's, no Justice Minister, and maybe the calibre in the last few years is maybe why nobody's taking this on. But I can't believe nobody's walked in and thought this needs radically overhaul.
What's the cost benefit of this?
So much waste here. There's so much money just being poured down the drain. A lot of it from the public purse. Football has been one of the worst for that, because, as I say, there are cases in which they knew they weren't even going to get convictions, but would drag them out right to the last minute to maximise the harm for the person charged. But in the meantime, it's still man hours for whoever's working and that's back at the office.
I mean, it's these sort of intelligence gathering operations are just, crazy as well for me. I mean, I think that even we talked briefly with Erin of the On the Ball campaign, and I think at the time we were discussing the notion that they were trying to recruit informants within organisations, or within fan groups and stuff like that. And you're like, these are the type of tactics they use against terrorists. What the fuck is that?
Used them against the coal miners as well, but didn't they?
They did. But I mean, sort of stuff like that. There's the fact that you would have synchronised dawn raids. It used to always be on a Friday morning, so you could hold fans over the weekend. And then they post that, we don't like calling it dawn raids. We don't particularly like to practice it, but that's fair, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
There was a whole thing at the start as well. One of the things he would always do is come up and call you by your name. All right, Paul, how you getting on at uni or whatever at the time, and it's just about intimidation. It's just about letting listen, we know all about you and you better watch. And this was happening to a whole range of football supporters, the vast majority of whom had never been in a day's bother in their life. Had never been, never encountered the kind of criminal justice system in any way, shape or form. Yet, almost overnight there was just this change of culture that brought in football fans who've been seen as this potential criminal threat. And you mentioned the stuff about informants. Bernard Higgins was asked about that recently as part of a Sky News report, and he goes off in some rant about terrorism and about organised crime, and you're like, you were just asked why you're tapping up football fans who've never, the guys that I know who are tapped up have never been charged, right? Never been in border, never any convictions, nothing like that, right? And they've been sought out at their work or their home to be asked by the police, would you mind acting and giving them incentives and whatnot? And you're like, what is going on? What do they think that they're going to get for this? But the fact that he's even asked about this, and he goes off in this tangent about organised crime and terrorism. And that's what I'm saying about the cultural problem that's rooted within Police Scotland. That is how they view football supporters. And until we get to the root of that, all this is just going to continue.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Do you feel that the attitude of the police and things like this have been a part of why we see it more often, or do you think that the media is reporting it is why we see it? Because we got off mic, I'd sort of disagreed with Matt a wee bit, thinking back to the sort of tail end of Gordon Strachan's era at Celtic. When people would sing certain songs at Celtic Park, you would hear groans. You would hear people sort of groaning when songs would start. to like now where it almost feels like it's accepted again. But is that just my sort of perception?
I mean,
do you think?
if I remember right, I can't even remember much singing at all in the Gordon Strachan era.
I might have had
later
something to do.
age,
Didn't
yeah.
he's an awful, well, a few
might have
trophies,
had-
but
might
not
have
much
had
to sing
something to do
about.
with it.
I mean, there have been changes at Celtic Park, obviously, and I think the atmosphere is much better now than it has been. Certainly,
Yeah.
looking back probably since the new stadium opened.
I think there's also been a concentration by fans to sing about players and stuff like that. I think, you know, almost every guy in the first team squad has their own wee song, and I think that's something that I've not seen in a while.
Listen, the Celtic Sport sings. If
Yeah.
you want to sing Republican songs, I've got no
Absolutely.
problem with that. I think that's part and parcel of the kind of nature of the club. But in terms of, I would have said there was maybe a wee upstart when the act came in, because there was a lot going on at the time as well. But I mean, it's for me, if what their plan was to limit that type of singing, it has failed. You know,
Yeah.
there's no getting away from it. But the bottom line is as well is as much as, you know, there's a difference between people saying, you know, they don't like songs, right? That's fine, you know, it's no problem. Like that. If people, you know, say, well, I don't like these songs, don't think they should be sung at the football, don't think it should be part of the club, whatever, right? That's fine. But there's a difference between going from that and thinking people should be
Then jailed.
Jailed for doing it.
jailed.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
there's a difference.
There's a hell of a lot. There used to be a hell of a lot of self-policing that used to happen.
I still think there is.
Within
I mean,
football fans, when we witnessed it one time,
Yeah.
a game against Dundee United that springs to mind, where somebody said something blatantly racist against a Dundee United player, and they ended up in a fist fight with other supporters.
Trip more each in them for that.
Yeah.
And my experience, it's only been a couple of times. You know, you've maybe heard, and it is always like there's never like en masse racist chants. Certainly not at Celtic.
No.
Right?
Definitely not. No.
But there's maybe been, in the time I've followed Celtic, there's maybe been a couple of individual racist shout, and the person is either immediately told to shut up, or there's punches thrown even before you get to that.
Absolutely.
You know, there is an element of which, I mean, and again, I'd imagine people would be cranking up about that and all, but that's the reality. There is an element of self-policing that does exist there. And I do think that if you were to get, you know, out of order stuff that was, you know, attacking people for their kind of protected characteristics, stuff that would be considered hate crime, I think by and large football fans would stand up to that, because football fans, you know, football doesn't exist in a bubble.
No.
Football is very much a microcosm of society in a lot of ways. So just as, you know, there's no point in sitting here throughout the course of the campaign denying that there was an issue with sectarianism or racism or homophobia within football through the 60s and 70s and 80s and whatever, right? But just as those things became less and less acceptable in modern society, they became less acceptable on the terraces. So I think even if you were to hear somebody shouting something homophobic, I think immediately they would be chinned for that. Games, I really do, and I've seen it happen. So this idea that football fans are, you know, these Neanderthal,
thugs,
like Stone Age, like guys who are just there to shout abuse at people. It isn't my experience, and I find a lot of the time that, you know, the types of people who are peddling this stuff are people who you have never been to a football game.
Definitely. I think obviously it's post-appeal. You know, it's clear, even just feel like we're discussing today, that it's not over. Like, there is going to be further attempts to legislate, and, you know, we don't know what form there's going to take yet, but, like, obviously, what do you think the sort of, you know, sort of trends are in this kind of debate at the minute?
I mean, one of the things that's been pushed is strict liability. I still don't think that, I can't see there have been legs to it, really. I mean, James Dornan's been trying to push it for 4 years now or something like that, and the clubs would oppose it because it's, you know, like, you've never ever in your life, have you? I mean, if you guys run a podcast, you'll be quite tuned into the kind of political developments in Scotland. See, when Mark MacDonald was suspended and then flung at the SNP for his various misdemeanours and harassment charges against women, nobody in their right mind suggested that the SNP should lose a couple of seats at Parliament because of his behaviour, right? And you didn't hear that mentioned because it'd be stupid, right? It'd be daft. Nobody would suggest that. because ultimately people are responsible for their own actions,
Yep.
and that's the way the rest of our justice system works. So why on earth you would change it just for this one specific issue, which is massively over and disproportionately discussed and overblown? It strikes me as mad. I don't know how much kind of what kind of legal foundations there would be for the Scottish Government to bring into what is a private company fundamentally and say you need to apply these rules. I don't know how much scope there would be for that. But I do think that they're shaping up for something. There was obviously talk about different hate crime aggravations.
Yep.
You might see changes to the way that is, and I don't particularly trust this government to manage it in any sort of mature fashion. And there's been discussions as well about attaching rules in regards to licences and stuff like that. But listen, the truth is I don't have any more of an insight into that than you guys do. You'll follow that a bit yourself.
Fair enough.
And it's just a case of, I think what we're trying to do at the moment is just stand up for fans a wee bit, because nobody's been doing it. As I say, there's just been this total onslaught on our railways and in our papers, all this stuff about fans. I mean, like the Daily Records, scum hunt and stuff like that.
Oh my God. Recently
just mental stuff. And I think that it's time, I think fans have maybe been a wee bit quiet on it the first couple of weeks, but we have to be like, no, listen, enough's enough. And hopefully, the furore will die down a wee bit. Everybody will, have a deep breath, and it will hopefully allow for an environment in which a more mature discussion can be had.
I think the things like scum hunt and the way that we're talking about, like a lot of the sort of media stuff, we've spoke about this before, but we're really suffering as a society for the death of like sort of mainstream media, that is in like papers and news, and they're resorting to the sort of lowest type of reporting. They're highlighting these wee tiny things that are almost like exceptions that happen within these types of like football fans, or no matter what. I mean, the amount of coverage that like EDL protests get, and there's like 10 of them, and you're like, look, it's no thousands and thousands of people that's got these things, but it's almost like clickbait. They're just
you're right.
It's the death croak of like sort of newspapers and mainstream media, and we're suffering for it because we're getting things like this that's coming up against minorities within massive groups of people to try and deal with it, and it's almost like we don't need to deal with it. Like,
I think the demonisation of fans in the press, particularly in Scotland, is an extension of the demonisation of the other underclasses out there, the immigrants and asylum seekers and benefit claimants and the unemployed and, football fans. And I think this sort of right-leaning media that we've got in the country is just, as you say, just taking pot shots, hoping that people will pick it up.
We're a society that's now obsessed with punishment, obsessed with punitive measures. We jail more younger people, I think, than anyone else in Europe, by and large. And
is that Scotland or the UK?
The UK, as far as I'm aware. But we're just obsessed with this notion of punishment. And it's now manifesting itself in really dangerous ways, in my opinion. And stuff like the way the media portrays what is an almost non-existent problem, in my opinion. I think that people who have maybe acted in some of the ways in the last few weeks should be individually charged, but I don't think in any way that speaks to a wider pattern. I mean, we had the one of the police officers who was on saying, there's been this massive rise in sectarianism and violence. All right, if you get stats to back that up. Like, no, it's just a gut feeling.
It's just a feeling that we've got.
Imagine he came on and said, like, there's this massive rise in knife crime again in Glasgow, and you're like, oh, Christ, have you got the arrest figures there, mate? Like, no, I just think that's the case, mate. Like, he wouldn't even get, like...
I mean, Theresa May get tagged with that this week.
Aye, I mean, like, see if a police officer said that, he wouldn't even get, like, quarterly a column on the 12 page of the Daily Record, right? But it's just put out there utterly uncritically when it's about football fans, because, as you say, there's a clickbait element of it, and this hysteria feeds a kind of feeding frenzy for the media that they see as beneficial to them. But at this point, I think what we need is we need to stop having ex-football players, as I say,
Yep.
trying the whole social analysis stuff and it's just idiocy. It just needs to stop. And what I would say is as well is that, you know, the papers and the kind of websites and the news channels and stuff like that have a responsibility to calm down the rhetoric. And I think as well that it would be beneficial for football clubs themselves to stand up for fans a wee bit more.
100%.
Yep.
And it would be beneficial as well to have, when they're having these debates, don't have, you know, Charlie Nicholas or like Stephen Thompson or Billy Dodds or any of these people talking about fans.
Absolutely.
Get some fans on that have really experienced it and let them share their views. Because none of them are going to come on and say, it's your democratic right to chuck Buckfast bottles at people.
No.
Yeah.
What they're going to come on and say is, listen, we understand that there's been, you know, a couple of minor issues the last few weeks. Those people should absolutely be charged and be put through due legal process. That's fine. But what shouldn't be happening is the rest of us shouldn't be tarred with the same brush as them and then treated as part of some punitive measure brought in by an authoritarian-minded government at this point.
I think we're stuck in a place, both politically and in terms of our media, where this is, you know, the notions of sectarianism and the, you know, stuff that's associated to it, as we've been discussing, is a bit of a tennis ball that's being batted back between people who are actually looking to solve sectarianism and people who are trying to exploit sectarianism. And I think we both, you know, they need both sides to be a lot closer and on the same page. So, I mean, obviously, as we're kind of starting to wind up, what's next for Fans Against Criminalisation?
Well, I mean, it's kind of difficult to answer that one because, as I say, you know, we're set out to deal with the OBFA. That's now gone. But there might well be another problem on the horizon if the Scottish Government want to pick another fight with us. We're more than happy to go head to head with them again. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. We're there to protect fans, and whatever comes, we'll be prepared for it. But hopefully, as I say, hopefully some common sense kicks in. Hopefully, there can be a cooling down of the rhetoric. What we'll certainly be doing is we'll certainly still be offering the support to help fans if anyone's caught up in any of the kind of stuff with the police in the meantime. And we'll be just watching developments, and should they decide to pick a fight with us again, we'll be happy to go again.
Good. I mean, just to kind of sort of wind up, I mean, one of the things I kind of have covered is that, you know, like with previous guests on the ball, like I think organisations like Fans Against Criminalisation are really an example of how people are going to take control of their democracy going forward. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and speak to us today and the detail that you have. Like, I think it's been great to have that adult sort of grown-up debate that we've been talking about. As I say, like, there is a lot of tribalism. We're not always going to overcome that, but I don't think that that's necessarily your goal here. It's just about, as you say, protecting fans in the context of the debate. But it is important to note that, like, the issue is both historical and societal, and like jailing folk at football matches for singing songs isn't going to resolve the issue.
No, it's not. And as you say, that's the kind of rhetoric of people who are trying to exploit sectarianism rather than actually get to the root of genuine inequalities that exist in our society. And I'm more than happy to move on to those genuine inequalities and trying to tackle them as a society. And I'm happy to be part of that debate. But this isn't the way to do it.
No.
Cheers for coming in, man. It's been, I mean, massive education for me, because I was saying to Matt before you came in, I'm aware of it. I disagree with the act, but I didn't really know that much about it, and it's been really good to just sit and listen to you talk with it, man. You're clearly an intelligent guy, and I wish you all the best in the future, man. Maybe you should get into politics.
We'll deal with this
The
first,
FAC, the FAC party.
Once this is all died down, I think I'm going to lie down in the dark room for
There's a few bits and bobs, various videos that you've referenced and stuff like that when we post here, probably at some point in the next week. We'll link to the various bits and bobs, so that obviously anybody that clicks on it's got access to see what you're talking about.
And I mean, they can follow us anyway on Twitter at
Absolutely.
Kill the Bill anyway. And if anybody's got any questions or anything they want to know, they can certainly get in touch. But thank you both so much for you guys for giving me the opportunity to come on here and have a kind of frank discussion about the kind of intricacies of it all. And I've very much enjoyed that.
Excellent, Paul.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
I tried to reconcile a life I lived a while. Just stop the party. Feeding lies like you'll never know. I don't need to be unhappy with a life to call my own. We'll end up burning bridges sat upon a selfish throne. I will march along this path on